We start with a major milestone in the number of people who have crossed the channel in small boats.
Yes, 100,000 people have now arrived in this country by the route across the channel, despite repeated government pledges to bring the crossings to a halt.
Our Home and Security Editor Mark White joins us now in the studio. Good morning to you, Mark. It's going to be a very busy day for you. So 100,000, that's since 2018 when we first began recording this method, because before that, of course, they were coming over via road routes mainly. What's the significance of this landmark being reached, do you feel?
Well, I think it's very significant because it is such a stark and heavy figure in terms of the number who have crossed. And there is no doubt this is an issue that has sparked a lot of debate and discussion around the country, because it's not just an issue that's felt on the Kent coast, it's felt right around the country as these people are housed in hotels.
Oh, Mark, sorry. Apparently your mic is doing a little bit.
Your mic's got a bit funny. We're going to sort that. So just so people are clear about when these figures were recorded. So we started recording these figures in 2018 because until then, mainly it had been hopping into the back of lorries, coming across via road, via the channel. And that was all clamped down on with those barbed wire routes at Calais. And so then the criminal masterminds switched their modus operandi. We've got your sound back now,
Yeah,
Bob. So
apologies.
talk about the significance of the 100,000 figure being breached.
Yeah, it is significant. As I say, there is a national discussion anyway on this issue because it affects people not just in Kent but right across the country who see hotels in their communities that are being taken over by these people. And then when we reach a figure such as 100,000, it's going to focus the minds. And remember, this is coming on a week that the government has set aside to show just how committed it is to the small boats crisis. It is their small boats week. This is the government showing how we are getting the BB Stockholm barge up and running, how we're doing deals with Turkey to go after the people smugglers, how we're cementing our relationship with our colleagues over in France to stop the boats reaching the beaches.
The Ascension Islands as well.
Worth mention of that, which was then cooled. There was a cooling off on the Ascension Islands, even though it was clearly briefed out, because it wasn't just one but two newspapers that had the story. So this is, anyway, as I say, the government's week. That they want to focus attention on what they say they're doing about the crisis. But the fact is, you know, Rishi Sunak said he was going to stop the boats. The boats have slowed down a little, but that's really nothing to do with Rishi Sunak, as far as I can tell, and speaking to the maritime experts who watch these channel crossings across the Kent coast all of the time, and they say it's down to weather conditions. We've had atrocious weather.
100,000 is a shocking number. It's a staggering number, and it will certainly focus minds, I'm sure, amongst the public. But does this put us in national emergency territory now, Mark?
Well, we've had points in the past where various politicians have said, even I think the last Home Secretary before Suella Braverman, Priti Patel, her legal team, when they were talking about trying to get people into these air bases, declared it a national emergency, in terms of needing to acquire these Ministry of Defence bases so that they could house migrants there rather in these expensive hotels that are costing £6 million a day. But yes, it's worth recapping on how this crisis began. It was, you're right, Martin, in 2018 when we first really started to notice that Channel migrants were coming across in small boats, because previously they'd been described as clandestines, hiding in the back of lorries and either coming on the ferries or lorries going through the Channel Tunnel or whatever route they would take. That is still going on, by the way, to the tune of about 9,000 a year who are still pulled from the backs of lorries. So it's not a problem that has entirely disappeared. But in 2018, just under 300 people crossed the English Channel. And then we noticed the next year that figure was actually at about 1,800. It rose very significantly then. But But then it just started to take off. It really accelerated. So we got in 2020 some 8,000 people who crossed. In 2021, it was 28,000, 28,500, I think. And then, of course, last year, that absolutely record-breaking figure of almost 46,000 who crossed.
This is one of those things that people probably don't realise, maybe, is just how recent this phenomenon is. It really just did kick on from 2018, and the numbers have simply skyrocketed every year.
Yeah, what it's shown is the kind of adaptive nature of the human traffickers. When you close down one route, they simply go to another. But Mark, the big question is, once again today, ticker tape announcement about leaving the ECHR. These numbers are going to be a nightmare for the Conservatives today, aren't they? Because they can tinker while Rome burns all they like with policy, with domestic changes to European court stuff. Where do we send them? Rwanda, Ascension Islands. The fact of the matter is, these numbers signally fail. They show they failed to take back control of our borders, and that was a pledge in 2016, a pledge in every election since 2010, and here we are again. This is a massive headache for the Conservatives.
There is no doubt that this 100,000 figure will derail the national conversation that the government was hoping to have this week about just everything they're trying to do to get on top of this problem. It will just focus people's minds on the fact that it is a very significant problem that is not really being addressed in any meaningful way. I mean, the government themselves admit there is no silver bullet to this, and that's why it has to be a multifaceted approach that involves going after the people smugglers, that involves giving £500 million to France, that involves dealing with them when they come across here, first in hotels, of course, but now the imperative to move away from hotels. It seems, a never-ending crisis. And already this year, we are now, with arrivals this morning, at 15,300 people who have crossed the Channel. And the only saving grace, really, for the government is the fact that, the weather has been so bad that they're able to say, oh, we're about 10% down on what we were on this period last year. But that is to do with the weather.
So, leaving the ECHR, which is what some Conservative MPs want to do, it's on the front page of the Telegraph this morning. So, leaving the ECHR, in your view, would not be the silver bullet that some people hope it would be?
Well, I mean, leaving the ECHR, like the issue of bases, hotels, deals with France, they're all really symptoms of an inability of the government to actually stop the boats in the first place. It's dealing with the issue. Stopping the boats at source is what you really have to do. I mean, he could stop the boats tomorrow if Emmanuel Macron decided, yes, UK, any boats that come across to UK waters, you can take them on board your border force vessels, take them right back to our French ports, and we'll take them off your hands. That would stop the small boats crisis, because then you would break the people smugglers' business model. If they knew that every boat that came to the UK is immediately just going to be turned back, those migrants taken back to France. And it would do that, and it would potentially, of course, cause a bit of an issue for Emmanuel Macron, because then he's got all of these people that he's going to have to deal with. It becomes his problem.
It's not in his interest.
But it's already his problem, because these poor communities in Calais and in Dunkirk and Boulogne that have been blighted by hundreds of thousands of people over recent months and years who've come to the northwest corner of France to try to get across the Channel, they're all camped out around these towns and cities. They're blamed for a significant amount of antisocial behaviour and crime in these communities as well. So these areas would love to see a French policy that stops the boats coming and stops these people piling up along their coastline.
That's very true. We don't often talk about what's happening in the north of France, and it is very much a blight on those communities. So, moving on, thank you very much indeed, Mark White, for your time. Home and Security Editor there, bringing us the breaking news.
Before we move on, Mark, I love your optimism, but I think Macron doing a deal with us is about as likely as me winning the Eurovision Song Contest. You ever heard me sing? I just don't think it's going to happen.
Please don't mistake what I was saying for optimism. I'm not at all optimistic. There is no way on earth that Emmanuel Macron is going to do this. I'm just saying, if he did, That would just instantly break the people smugglers' business model. But yeah, there's no way on earth he's going to do it.
Come on, Macron. You can do it.
Dig deep.
Anyway, thank you very much for your time, Mark White there.